what's going on, you nasty MFers? It's the Working Fans Podcast. It's the man called Dave. It's producer Joe. Sorry, no AJ today. Randy, you're going to be all right. What's up, Joe?
And you're going to be all right because we have a new sponsor. You can see the branding on me. It's on the background. It's Game Up Hard Hydration. If you haven't been paying attention to our social medias, you're missing out. Like, I personally can't wait for when the summer comes and we can start throwing this in a cooler on those hot days, because it's not only got a kick to it, but it's got a little hydration. It's Dave, you got those stats. You want to throw them at the people?
Oh, baby. Let's talk about it. We're talking about full flavor, 110 calories per can, and it's low carb.
Yeah, 4.9 ABV, so it's not like stronger than a beer, but the flavor is huge, and
Fruit punch,
you're going to love it
orange,
because we
lemon, grape. Sorry, I just want to get in it. Go ahead.
Here, I'm going to let myself tell you about it more eloquently.
If you haven't tried Game Up, then you are missing out. Imagine your favorite seltzer and your favorite sports drink had a baby, but it's way better than that. Each can is 110 calories, low carb, 4.9 ABV. It's a nice light drink that is not light on flavor. Game Up comes in fruit punch, orange, lemon, lime, and grape. Pick it up at drinkgameup.com or at your nearest liquor store.
That's what it sounds like when you practice it, but we got a big weekend in wrestling, Dave, don't we? Before we get to the main event, let's talk about this past Wednesday, because I tried watching Dynamite, but we had a group chat that was popping off really late, and I was so far behind that I had to kind of ignore the 60 messages that kept popping up and try and enjoy at least the Moxley FTR tag match. But there was something notable later in the show, and I was kind of wondering what was going on with that. And is Ric Flair siding with the Young Bucks? It's not surprising that Ric Flair, in storyline at least, isn't happy with his participation in this match. And I don't doubt that comes from real life. I'm sure when he was asked, there was some hope of getting into the ring, maybe some expectation. What's going on with this? How did you take this segment?
I took it as a little bit that they were real life, imitated, art's imitating real life a little bit here. All right. I feel that a lot of people are wondering, hey, where's Ric Flair? What's going on? This guy said I was going to be there every step of the way with Sting. And maybe there's a certain fan base that doesn't even want to see him right now. And I know he offended a few people on that Rampage taping by just being Ric Flair. But at the end of the day, I think they wanted to address it in some way, and they're turning it into a storyline. And here's Ric Flair going to talk to the Bucks. And to me, it's so funny because I heard recently people suggesting that The Rock might be a double agent just on the way he pointed his hand, how it wasn't quite, the one, which is so intricate, right? And it's so subtle. And it's so away from what we're used to with WWE. And is it going to happen? Is it not? But this to me just reeked of, oh no, this is Ric Flair acting like he's going to work with the Bucks. And then at the end of it, at the pay-per-view, I'm expecting there'll be a moment where they're going to ask Flair, whether it's hand him a chair or something, and Flair's going to screw them over, and they're going to be like, that's why he's the dirtiest player in the game. And then you'll see Flair and Sting ride off together. Because to me, it's just, you can't, that's not what this is about, right? We're not cutting an angle where Ric Flair does a turn on Sting. Like, who's that get over? Who cares? You know what I mean? Flair's not going to do anything at this point in his life, So
during Sting's retirement match, nonetheless, this is all supposed to be Sting's moment, and now we're focusing on what's going to happen with Flair. Like, in my mind, I was going to, what would a Ric Flair Young Bucks partnership be like? Hopefully it's not like the Jericho Cruise and Ric Flair comes out dressed like the Young Bucks, because that would be hilarious looking. But does this make you any more excited for Revolution? Does this add any mystique to it? To me,
not for me.
Seems like a weird move.
No, I mean, maybe there's a certain fan base there. Obviously, Sting's been around for a while, so maybe you never know what people are into. This is a sidebar, but whatever. Keep this in. I put a question out the other day about favorite Hulk Hogan matches. And somebody responded with one of the matches I think he might have been trolling, but it was written so sincerely. Hats off to him. He was like, my favorite match was one we weren't even expecting when he surprisingly won the title from Yokozuna after Bret Hart got salt in the eyes. My whole ribbon room was jumping up and down. I thought, did that really happen? Because if so, that's kind of funny. Like, everybody complains. Everybody says it's one of the worst times, but this guy, I just picture someone in the house going, yeah, Hulkster, way to go.
Or think about it. That's just somebody that's so into wrestling that
Right.
when you get that reaction that pisses you off or that you don't expect, it just brings out like these feelings about it. And I don't know. I'm more excited for the pay-per-view we're going to talk about later in this show than I am for Revolution. And Sting is one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. So it's kind of weird not to be caring as much about that match.
Okay, so now before we go on, I do want to say this because you got me interested. So, really happy that Sting's getting this moment. I'm happy that when I look at AEW's poor attendance numbers right now, and I feel bad for that, I'm happy that I see all this tickets selling for Sting because that's clearly, okay. So even though like the brand might be like, they want to see Sting, I'm happy with that. But, and maybe there's reasons for this, all right, and maybe it's because of his age and stuff like that. When I thought of a Sting retirement match, I didn't really want to see a tag match. And when I think of a tag match, I'd rather see two other legends or something happening. And if that's not possible, that's okay too. But then we already put the tag titles on them. That would have been a nice thing to finish up if they won the tag titles. Or, and now we're really nitpicking here a little bit, but if you were going to have to do one current tag team, like one current legitimate tag team, it would have been FTR for me. So, and no offense to the Bucks, but they were really towards the end on what I wanted with a Sting final match. That's part of it for me.
Yeah, and speaking of FTR, I agree with that 100%. But what they're lining up for Revolution between BCC and FTR almost feels like, I'm not going to say good enough, but it feels like the next best thing we could get. Now, I hope there's a lot of tribute paid to Sting, maybe bring out some other legends since you're going to be in that southeast area.
Sure. Steamboat. Yeah, absolutely.
But you can't end Sting's career with somebody calling him out.
Right.
I don't know if that's too big a jump or too bad a transition. But this one day on Raw, we saw.
I love that picture of Michael Chandler. I just want to say that.
Yeah, it looks a lot better when it's not zoomed in like that. But when I clicked the picture in and saw that, I'm like, I think Dave's going to enjoy this. And
I do.
To me, it's an odd picture, but is it an odd situation? I heard some people complaining about the inclusion on Raw, which a lot of it, I was watching the Raw recap on Post, and there was a lot of talk about it. And to me, it seems like it makes sense because it's that kind of integration across brands that I'm sure they would like to start getting.
Post did a really good job of that. And they mentioned too, Netflix was there that night too. And that was referenced. And that was a quick, hey, we have people from Netflix here and they came in. To me, this was, as Wei Ting had put it, I think, very inoffensive. It was just a quick little thing. I thought Michael Chandler, honestly, for like celebrity who's not like actively pursuing a career as a pro wrestler, I thought he did fine. Did he maybe get a little carried away? Maybe. They pulled away from him. Pat McAfee's explaining everything too. But this was, we've seen so much worse when you think of the Vince McMahon era, and maybe we're beaten down, right? Like there's no zombies coming up here. There's no bullshit. It's a legit fighter calling out one of the most popular fighters in the world in a place like Anaheim, California. It took about a minute, 2 minutes. I had no issue with this. I thought if we're going to do the occasional inclusion of your including UFC and WWE stuff, I thought this is a nice way to do it. I don't want to see this every week. You can't do it every week. But hey, once every couple months, there's a guy calling someone out, or you want to promote something on your show, you got big events, great way to do it.
Yeah, now this is a feud. You're better with the MMA than me. This is a feud that's been ongoing. Like, have these guys fought yet? Is this a fight that's been in the works?
There's a fight that's Chandler's wanted, I think, since last April or something. Like, we're going on a year, I think. Like, they did an Ultimate Fighter TV show which usually builds. They were both coaches on it, and it builds towards a big fight. Connor had an injury. Connor has a lot of money, and Connor has not really been wanting. I'm not going to say he doesn't want to fight, but they haven't been able to get it done. And according to Dana White, Connor's usually easy to do business with once you sit down with him, but they haven't been able to do that. Now, for Chandler, it's interesting because he hasn't fought so long. These are like his prime years in the sport. I'm sure he's made some money, but it's like you're really sitting down, you're hoping for that lottery ticket, right? You're hoping you can get this Connor McGregor fight so you can make this kind of money. Because win or lose, if he can make a ton of money off of this, he's all set. So it's really just waiting around. So I hope he gets it, but you never know. You never know. I will say this, though. One other thing about Michael Chandler, just for the wrestling fans that are watching, he's also cut promos before where he's yelled at people and he goes, "Beat me if you can, survive if I let you." And he's also made, with a tear in my eye. So Chandler clearly has watched and enjoys some pro wrestling. I appreciate that about him.
Could we see him in a WWE ring? Do you think there's a chance?
Anything's possible. I think the aesthetics of it would never have happened with Vince, because despite the fact Chandler's a badass who could probably beat up most of your roster, he's a smaller looking guy. He's jacked, but he's smaller height-wise. Vince wouldn't like this. However, with Triple H, and I think the fact that Triple H, if you've seen him before, he's at boxing events, he's at MMA events, he has an interest in combat sports. I think you never know if there's going to be an inclusion, especially now that the companies are working together. And I'll say one other thing, kind of related but not related. I mentioned this on the Combat Cast this week too. If you want to know how big a group TKO is, for you non-wrestling fans out there, or you non-MMA fans, or you don't watch any of this, WWE is doing an event tomorrow in Australia, the Elimination Chamber, huge event. We're talking about UFC is going to have a big fight night that night too. They're going to be in Mexico. All right. There's going to be two phases, and they got a big crowd in Mexico. So we're going to be, this is global. It's a global brand.
I was about to say, I don't know if you're jumping my transition or stealing them, but I was going to ask how tomorrow is going to be for you, because if you listen to the Combat Cast, the main card for fight night starts at 10 p.m. Eastern.
Yes.
We're going to announce it right now. Elimination Chamber, 5 a.m. The man called Dave is going to be doing a live watch along. Why? Because he's on Breadman hours and he can do it, and he's got the day off. I'm going to try and join him, but we'll see how that fucking goes.
When he tags in. But before we get there, let's talk about the Elimination Chamber, and let's maybe give you some predictions on what we think is going to happen tomorrow. Joseph, before we even get started, longtime listener Randy Osga had hit me up with some questions right before we went on. I just saw these.
Is he not watching live? Usually these pop up in the comments, but hit me with
I know. He did ask us, will we see any
Has Joe been kicked off Facebook? Yes, that's official. They took me out. I've been eliminated.
He's out. He's out of the chamber right now. Yeah, we got some emails about that too. I'll talk to you about that. Yeah. So are we going to get a surprise? Any people showing up tomorrow? I don't
Rock
think
and
so.
Roman.
You think the Rock and Roman show up? I mean,
Grayson Waller effect.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Let's talk about that before we begin, because that's not a match. So we do have Seth and Cody coming out here. You got to think it could lead to something. The biggest thing it could lead to is if the Rock and Roman are actually there and we get a face-to-face before Mania.
Yeah, because there was talk about them not going to Australia, I believe. And to me, Grayson Waller effect, I know Grayson Waller's from Australia, but to have an interview segment on one of these premium live events, it seems weird. So something's going to happen. And what could be bigger than the Rock and Roman coming out, further stirring up this hot storyline that's been going over the last couple weeks? And that's the biggest surprise I see on this show.
I would agree. Let's get to these predictions here. All right, we got a pre-show match. I'm laughing to myself now because I said I'll be up here at 5 a.m. There's a pre-show match. Time's that shit starting.
Yeah, I'm guessing. I'm gonna say probably 4 o'clock. Like you would hope 4:30, but if you're
Yeah,
gonna treat it like a regular live event, usually for these
4.
smaller ones, it's an hour before.
Yeah, it's before.
SummerSlam, it would be 2 hours.
Right. All right. I thought, well, whatever. We'll see if I get the time for the pre-show, guys. I will be up and we'll be ready. We'll be going before 5. But
What's the pre-show match, by the way?
pre-show match I'm about to get to is the Kabuki Warriors, Kairi Sane and Asuka defending the women's tag titles against Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. Cool for Indy. She's from Australia. They got her on this show. That's probably about where that's going to be.
I was about to say, Dave, I think you can wake up at 5 and be fine. We'll imagine how this played out. I'm sure there'll be a replay at some point.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's get to the second match here. The Judgment Day, Finn Balor and Damian Priest versus Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. And Joe, I think you're gonna like this. Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne winning some matches lately, and maybe they're gonna be a serious team because they even have a tag team name now. They are called the New Catch Republic.
Okay, I like it. And this is what's possibly kicking off the main show, we're thinking.
That's what it looks like here, according to America's most trusted news source, Wikipedia.
All right. Well, I like the match either way. I really like the team. Pete Dunne getting his old name back.
Yeah.
I would like to see them pick up the win.
Yeah.
Like Judgment Day is good, but Damian Priest still has that briefcase.
Mm-hmm.
They've got other stuff going on that they don't need the tag titles as much.
Absolutely. Honestly, even if this was just a transitional reign for Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate, they're the kind of wrestlers I just like to see get some gold and see them have this kind of success because they're so good. And I used to feel this way about Mick Foley before he ever made it big and won those WWE Championship back then. I was like, oh man, I just want to see Mick in big matches because he was so entertaining, And that's kind of how I feel like about these guys. They've had great careers in NXT and NXT UK, and they've had moderate success on a WWE roster. It'd be nice to see them get some gold.
100%.
All right, Becky Lynch. This is our next matchup. So it's the WWE Women's Elimination Chamber. Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair, Liv Morgan, Tiffany Stratton, Naomi, and Raquel Rodriguez. To me, there's only a couple people this could be, but I'm going to go with Becky Lynch. We've been setting up Becky versus Ripley, I believe. You could argue Becky hasn't got the win over Nia Jax yet, so even if Nia Jax shocks the world, we'll predict on that later. Either way, I feel like Becky's the one that's being programmed for one of these two matches.
I want to agree with you, but I got a feeling about Raquel Rodriguez. Dark horse pick. I'm gonna give you a strange brew and out of left field pick, something you didn't think could happen.
All right. Well, I mentioned it. Let's move on. Next match: Rhea Ripley versus Nia Jax. Rhea Ripley in front of her home in Australia. She's gonna be a big baby face tomorrow. We didn't fly her out here. We didn't take her on every media tour. We didn't put her on the cover of this thing so she could just lose. Nia Jax has been built up since coming back. Probably the best run of her career. She's been taken seriously. She's been laying people out, and that's great. She's losing tomorrow, though.
Yeah, there's no way Nia Jax could win. Like, if Vince were still in the company, I'd say the chances were 50-50. But I don't know if you've seen the promotional material since they've been over in Australia. They've had press conferences. She's drinking out of shoes. They're going big with this one. And it's weird because I bet a lot of Americans aren't seeing it because of just the time frame it's on. Like the press conference was on last night as I was getting ready for bed. And I'm like, I'm not even in the mood for this right now. So it's interesting the push that they're giving over there. And obviously she's got to take home the gold.
For sure. All right. Main event time. The big match. Who's going to be wrestling Seth Rollins? Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton, Bobby Lashley, LA Knight, Kevin Owens, Logan Paul. I just want to say, first off, pretty much almost all these guys have been built up in a good way. Drew McIntyre, the strongest, though. I mean, even though Hooker Crook getting that win over Cody Rhodes, who nobody has beaten other than unless your name's Roman or Brock, and Brock isn't the name we're going to hear too much anymore. So he seems to be the odds-on favorite. A lot of people are picking him. I'm going to go in a different dark horse pick. I'll do the Strange Brew thing this time. I'm going to go with Randy Orton. I'm going to say Randy Orton gets this done. And I say that too because Randy Orton's a babyface and everything. He's on SmackDown. But my hunch is it's going to all play out eventually. Like I think Damian Priest maybe cashes in on Seth if he gets beat up in a tag match. And then the next night it's Damian Orton. Orton will be that title holder on SmackDown. And I feel like Cody will win it from Roman this year, and Cody will be the champion. So I think it's all going to play out. So anyone who thinks there's gaps in this logic, be patient. But yeah, I'm going Randy Orton. RKO, maybe.
I agree with what you're saying about Drew. That was a great match on Monday. Really love the ending. I'm going to go left field pick again. And this one is purely going to be just because I'm a fan, but I want to see LA Knight get it. Like, he is somebody that needs that bump right now, and I would like to hope it's him. I don't think the chances are big, but I'm going with my heart on this one.
All right. Hey, I mean, that would have been my number 3 pick. All right. He's in there for sure. I think it'll be eventually something's going to happen where it leads to LA Knight and Logan Paul. And I think that's going to be LA Knight's big thing this year, winning that U.S. title from WrestleMania, Logan Paul. But we shall see. But Joe, where we going?
Do we have any more questions from Randy, or did we hit?
We do. I'm glad you said that.
Actually, hold on 1 second because I want to play a quick commercial for a friend's book, and that is Wrestle Black Bart.
All you goddamn wrestling fans out there, listen, old Black Bart has got a book. It's called Wrestle Black Bart. It's got some that good stories in there about some that good wrestlers.
Read stories of Dusty Rhodes, the Von Erich, Scott Casey, Sergeant Slaughter, Roddy Piper, Mr. Fuji, Ron Bass, Bruiser Brody, Mike Davis, the Grappler, and many others.
And I guarantee you one thing. That it'll be the best dadgum read you've had in a long time.
Get your book today at Russellville.com or on Amazon. Russellville, it's where wrestling lives.
It's a great book. I'm most of the way through it. I'm not on Facebook, so I don't know if Vinny Berry has been advertising autographs for the book, but I got mine autographed. Great book. You're going to want to pick it up. You're going to want to drink game up. And what questions do we have left from Randy to close out the episode?
All right, we're going to close it up with what I'm going to call a segment. We don't have a picture. We should get a picture of Randy, but I'm going to call Randy's top 5 because he gave me 6, but we already answered one of them. So here we go. Are we getting Sami Zayn versus Gunther at WrestleMania? Because Sami said he wants to be a champion and do something historic. I'll say yes, Randy. I like that call.
I really like that match. I hope that happens.
Number 3, are you guys watching TNA No Surrender tonight? Randy, if I'm getting up for Elimination Chamber, TNA will be taking a back seat. No offense, boys. Hope you kill it.
I might buy that pay-per-view. I'm gonna look at the card. I know it's only $10 on Fight, so
I won't be watching.
I was already thinking about it. I didn't know it was creeping up that quick.
Thoughts on AEW Dynamite? I can almost answer this for both of us. We got interrupted with a heavy group chat this week.
It was a difficult watch because I was behind as I was watching it. So I'm trying to watch the tag match and stay focused. And I'm hearing about stuff later in the show. So it was a rough watch. Dynamite's been hit or miss lately. I like certain matches, but overall, like AEW's hitting a creative rough spot, which they just hired a writer. So I'm hoping that helps steer the creative a little more.
All right. And does Deonna Purrazzo win the championship from Toni Storm? What do you say?
You let me know your pick first, and then I'll let you know what I'm thinking.
All right. Switch it up.
Somebody's got a killer transition in the works here.
I like to say that no, I'm gonna go Tony. Keeping this on her for now.
I'm gonna say yes, and Deonna Purrazzo is gonna take that title to Wrestleville.
Read about the Northern Wrestling Federation in the book presented by Russellville.com, The Pro Wrestling Vault, Volume 2. Hear the story of Roger Ruffin, the man who trained Carl Anderson, the Monster Abyss, Jordan Clearwater, Chris Harris, and Jillian Hall.
Plus 45 other short stories, including Jazz, Bobby Eaton, Kamala, Thunder Rosa, Mario Mancini, Scott Casey, PJ Black, Kerry Morton, Sal Renaro, Jeremiah Plunkett, Colby Carino, Bam Bam Malone, and many others.
Get your book today at Russellville.com. Russellville. It's where wrestling lives.